This is CBN NewsWatch.
Thank you so much for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Ephraim Graham. It is Thursday, July 17th. We're going to begin this half hour with news from the Middle East, where Syrian forces are beginning to withdraw from a contested border zone. This comes after Israeli airstrikes and U.S. pressure. But tensions remain high as Druze demonstrators clash with Israeli troops and protest outside the U.S. Embassy. Chuck Holton has more now on our top story from Jerusalem.
Syria's interim president announced a withdrawal of troops from Ceuta on Wednesday, hoping to calm sectarian unrest and foreign backlash.
In my speech, I specifically mentioned our Druze people, who are an integral part of the fabric of this nation. Syria will never be a place for division or fragmentation or sowing discord among its children. We assure you that protecting your rights and freedom is our priority, and we reject any attempt aimed at dragging you into an external side or causing division within our ranks.
But Druze communities in Israel don't trust Damascus, and they're taking their message to the streets.
It's the time to talk directly to the American administration, saying that it's not a business, it's not a deal. You cannot make a deal with a person that is a killer, that what he knows is only to kill people, and to kill people that are different than him.
Yesterday, more than 1,000 Israeli Druze breached the border fence, crossing into Syria to help fight for their brethren. At the same time, Israeli airstrikes hit regime targets in Damascus, including the Ministry of Defense and the presidential palace. A signal to the new regime that further violence in Ceuta would not be tolerated. The Trump administration echoed that message Wednesday.
We are calling on the Syrian government to, in fact, withdraw their military in order to enable all sides to de-escalate and find a path forward.
Meanwhile, in Jerusalem, Prime Minister Netanyahu's government is again under strain. The ultra-Orthodox Shas party ordered all its ministers to resign from their government posts, though they remain part of the ruling coalition. The move weakens Netanyahu's control as far-right allies grow more dominant. And in Washington, President Trump hosted the Emir of Qatar at Mar-a-Lago. Earlier in the day, he made this cryptic comment.
Envoy Steve Witkoff. Steve, thank you very much. Thank you. Good job. And we have some good news on Gaza and good news on a couple of things that we're working on at a very high level.
Whether that's linked to hostage negotiations, a temporary ceasefire, or something else remains unclear, but sources say discussions are ongoing. From Jerusalem, I'm Chuck Holton for CBN News.
President Trump calls the controversy over the Epstein files a scam and a hoax cooked up by Democrats. The president is also slamming Republicans who want the files released, calling them stupid and foolish. George Thomas has the details.
President Trump isn't holding back, blasting those who buy into what he calls a hoax, even calling some of his own supporters weaklings for caring about the Epstein controversy. Their new scam is what we will forever call the Jeffrey Epstein hoax, and my past supporters have bought into this BS, hook, line, and sinker, the president wrote on Truth Social.
Mr. President, I know you want to...
And he didn't stop there. Here's the president's reaction from the Oval Office Wednesday.
It's all been a big hoax. It's perpetrated by the Democrats, and some stupid Republicans and foolish Republicans fall into the net. And so they try and do the Democrats' work.
The Epstein files are court records tied to Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking case that might reveal more about what he did and who else was involved. The Trump administration promised full release, but few details have come out, and Democrats accuse the administration of having something to hide. Some lawmakers want Ghislaine Maxwell, the woman convicted of helping Epstein recruit and abuse underage girls, to testify and shed more light on the case.
This is one of the worst human trafficking rings in American history, run by this scumbag. And I think the more we know about it, the more we get out there, the better it is.
More Republicans are joining calls for transparency.
You need to have all of the credible information released for the American people to make their decision. We trust the American people.
Attorney General Pam Bondi has released only limited files. Trump says she could share more if there's credible information. George Thomas, CBN News.
Here's some other stories now making headlines in the CBN newsroom. The Senate passes President Trump's request to cancel nearly $9 billion in foreign and public broadcast spending. If approved, the move could have major impacts on the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and U.S. food programs. It could also complicate efforts to pass additional spending bills this year. The legislation now goes back to the House for another vote. A popular aid program that faced elimination even though it saved millions of lives now has a chance of survival. PEPFAR, a program fighting HIV/AIDS, is credited with saving an estimated 26 million people worldwide. The Trump administration has proposed cutting the program as part of a bill clawing back $9.4 billion in federal spending. Now, the White House reportedly has agreed to leave in place the $400 million in PEPFAR funding. However, the updated measure still has to pass the Senate and the House. Lawmakers hope to pass the Senate version by the end of this week. Well, it looks like cheese and other full-fat dietary products will soon be on the menu again. Medical reporter Lori Johnson shows us the changes to America's dietary recommendations.
Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. announced America's new dietary guidelines will include more dairy.
Well, I grew up in a world where milk was the healthiest thing that you could eat.
Secretary Kennedy made the announcement alongside dairy industry leaders.
We know that Americans eat roughly 19 pounds of ice cream a year.
They've agreed to remove artificial food colors from their ice cream within the next 3 years. Kennedy says dairy is just what Americans need more of.
There's a tremendous amount of emerging science that talks about the need for more protein in our diet and more fats in our diet. And there's no industry that does that better than this industry.
For years, doctors have advised limiting dairy intake.
Gives you a lot of protein, it gives you calcium, it gives you vitamin D and other nutrients, and absolutely. But it also can give you a lot of saturated fats. And saturated fats, we've known for a long time, is a predictor or a contributor to cardiovascular disease.
However, FDA Commissioner Dr. Marty Makary says those recommendations are based on flawed science.
This is a renaissance moment in health in America, and part of that is rewriting the broken food and nutrition guidelines of the United States. No longer are we going to have a broken food pyramid and a continuation of a 70-year demonization of natural saturated fat.
It's unclear whether the new dairy recommendations will include raw milk, which Kennedy has said is the only milk he drinks.
Raw milk coming from a cow can be filled with pathogenic microorganisms. Pathogenic means they can cause disease.
The new dietary guidelines are expected to be released later this year. Lori Johnson, CBN News.
Coming up, hear one expert's thoughts on the missile defense shield for America. It is called the Golden Dome. Stay with us. You're watching CBN NewsWatch. Welcome back to CBN NewsWatch. The United States has budgeted $175 billion for the missile defense shield known as the Golden Dome, but some are asking if the country can afford it. One expert believes the system is crucial to this country's national security. He says without it, hundreds of millions of Americans would die if an enemy attacked the country with an intercontinental ballistic EMP missile.
1 second after, we are without power. Worst case scenario, 3 such weapons. This is precisely what Golden Dome is going to address.
Well, we've discussed before that an EMP attack would not only destroy the power grid, but also disrupt the U.S. water supply, which relies on electricity. Please tell us more.
Okay, I call it like a Maslow's hierarchy of disaster. Literally within that first second after it blows, the water supply where you are, Virginia Beach, me in Asheville, across the nation, the water supply shuts down because they rely on electrical pumping stations. Electricity is a fundamental building block of a 21st century, 20th century society. We lose our water. We lose all our pharmacies. Within 2 to 3 days, we're running out of key medications for a lot of people. We lose food supply. 15 to 20 days out, food supply is gone, if not already rotten, because a lot of it is refrigerated. Bad one, command and control. What happens when the bad guys start figuring out the police can no longer be effective? All of these things added to get together are a perfect storm of disaster. According to 2 congressional studies in 2002 and in 2009, 80 to 90% of our population would die within a year.
And we're talking electrical and other losses that would take years to rebuild, not months, correct?
Yeah, DOE did a study some years back, estimated that 80% of the electrical grid of the United States would still be offline after 5 years after a major EMP attack. That means 80% electrical systems are gone. But the population is also down by 80 to 90%. It's a worst case scenario.
Well, Congress and President Trump have approved spending $175 billion for the Golden Dome system over 3 years. And some say it may eventually require as much as $750 billion or more to get a workable system up and running. So just how capable then would the Golden Dome be to stop an EMP if one were placed atop a long-range ballistic missile and it were shot down by the Golden Dome? Wouldn't its electromagnetic pulse still wreak havoc on the electrical grid?
Okay, Golden Dome is, the Israeli system of Iron Dome and Jacob's Sling. Golden Dome is Iron Dome on steroids. The Israeli defense system is point defense for short-range rockets. This is strategic defense covering east-west. It covers the entire United States by launching counter-missile batteries before the enemy weapon is even in range. And it is an ideal solution for EMP because it would be only a few weapons were going to be launched. But look at it this way. We spend we spend $200 billion on it. If we lose our electrical grid, if all that shuts down, estimates are that it's over $100 trillion in infrastructure in the United States. It's all blown off. So the analogy I give, would you own a house and not have an insurance policy on it? This is an insurance policy.
Bill, could an EMP be delivered by a drone? And just how effective would the Golden Dome be to protect the U.S. from an EMP drone attack?
No, those are low-level weapon systems. To get a good, to get a catastrophic EMP, you have to launch the weapon out into space. It's just part of one of the components of an EMP. If you detonate it low in the atmosphere, you don't create the EMP effect that you would out in space. When we did a test on this in 1962, 1 megaton warhead lofted 200 miles up Johnson Island. It blew out part of the Hawaiian grid 500 miles away. So you see the situation there. It's a line of sight event. Drones and all that goes to point defense for low-level types of attacks, not EMPs.
William Forstchen, EMP expert and author, thank you for taking your time to share your insights with us.
Pleasure being with you today.
Also on tonight's Global Lane, you can see how the United States is working to counter China to regain global dominance in the mining and processing of rare earth metals. And the Epstein files, is the DOJ covering for the rich and famous, or is it a political hoax? We'll explore that even more. You can catch the Global Lane this evening on the CBN. Still ahead, we're going to sit down with Devon Franklin talking about his upcoming rare and revealing one-man show. Stay with us. You're watching CBN NewsWatch. Devon Franklin hits the stage with a vulnerable show, and his real-life story provides the revealing script. He's sharing his heart and heartbreak, including a painful and very public divorce. He's also sharing how he was able to get through. In Be True, my journey from breakdown to breakthrough.
Hey, y'all, what's up? I'm excited to invite you to a one-man show that I'm doing. God opened up the door to provide me with this opportunity with Audible to do this one-man show. It's called Be True, my journey from breakdown to breakthrough.
So why a one-man show?
Why is the sky blue? I don't know. It just was the opportunity that was presented. I had done a book with Audible a couple years ago called It Takes a Woman, and we were looking at, how to do another project together. And then they presented this opportunity. Audible owns the Minetta Lane Theater in New York. And they said, would you like to do the next book as a performance? And I said, okay, I've never done this before, but yes, I'm excited. So that's how the one-man show came to be.
Now, this is described as your most vulnerable work to date. So was it an easy yes?
No, it was actually a very terrified yes. So this performance is the person. Devon, the person. It's not the persona. It's not who people think I am or who people think I'm not. This is me, speaking, my truth and walking people through my journey in a way that I believe will be very inspirational and bring hope. But it's very cathartic, but it's also very transparent. It's very vulnerable at times. And it's definitely the most terrifying thing I've ever done. And I'm just praying that it goes well.
How would you describe the chapters of your life that you're going to share?
Oh, my goodness. I would say, they would be like an emotional roller coaster. In my experience, most breakthroughs are directly connected to a breakdown. I think people will end up in a place where they see themselves and me on that stage, and they walk away with hope and motivation, because so often, as Christians, we put on the facade that everything is okay. And so doing this one-man show is an opportunity for me to really articulate the hurt, but also God's healing process if we accept it and if we pursue it.
For people like myself who follow what you do as far as sermons go, how is this different from what we would see from you at one church or any other many places that you preach?
God is trying to wake you up to remind you that while you are seemingly in your worst, He's preparing your best.
This is not a sermon. This is not a sermon at all. It's going to be me as a person, me as a man talking and walking people through my experience and walking people through my journey, and not just walking, performing, bringing people into the scenes of my life. So it's going to be more candid. It's going to be more raw, I guess you could say. Because I have to articulate what I've been through and the truth in which I went through it. And so I'm not standing, on that stage as a preacher. I'm standing on that stage as Devon, God's son.
Even those that have gone through their worst seasons are still available to receive the best.
That brings me to the next question. Your entertainment career has given us stories that uplift the human spirit. How does this fit?
The difference with this one is that it's me. The truth of me and my life and my experience, which I have never shared it in this way. So I think that it's still going to be uplifting. It's still going to be inspiring, but we're going to get there in a very different way, in a route that I've never taken. And that's what I'm excited about and also nervous about.
The world has watched you go through the pain of public heartbreak. Is it still painful today?
Listen, I think that whenever you are wounded and you receive healing, when you go back and really think about those moments that wounded you, it's always difficult. So, of course, I feel like I'm on the other side. I feel like I'm in a great place of healing. However, writing this show and performing this show requires me to go back into that wound. And that is still, a difficult process. Yet, it's a healing one. And to be able to articulate it, to be able to talk about it. Why? Because there's so many people that go through heartbreak, man. And they suffer in silence. And so if something that I can say or articulate on that stage might help somebody, then I'm here for it. I'm okay. If that's what God's called me to do, is go back into some of these wounds and tap into some of that hurt that I felt as a way to help somebody, then it certainly is worth it.
I can't wait for you to be there. It's going to be riveting. It's going to be fun.
Again, the show is called Be True, My Journey from Breakdown to Breakthrough. Devon performs the one-man show on July 18th and 19th at Audible's Minetta Lane Theater. That is in New York City. If you're in the area, you can still get tickets. Go to audiblex-minetta.com. to purchase your tickets and to get more information. Stay with us. Your Thursday Thankful is coming up next. A nonprofit in Central Texas is on a mission to help families affected by flash floods, specifically reuniting them to find their lost pets. Kerrville Pets Alive is a hub for pet resources and recovery in Kerr County. Volunteers pick up lost pets and doctor them up while they work to find their owners, often delivering pets to their families along with a stash of food and supplies. The organization says it's received an outpouring of donations since the deadly storms hit Central Texas. Time now for your Thursday Thankful. I invite you to join me in this prayer of gratitude. Father, thank you for being God in good times and the not so good times. Your reign is not dictated by circumstance. It is always true, and I can trust it. Even when I can't trace the hand of God, I can always trust his heart. He doesn't call me to understand, but he does call me to have faith in him. Well, that will do it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. Remember, you can always find more of our news programs on the CBN News Channel. You can find them there at any time as well as online. That address is cbnnews.com. We would love to know what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can email us. You can do that by sending that email to newswatch@cbn.com. And of course, you can always reach out and touch us on Facebook, Instagram, and X, formerly known as Twitter. Make today a thankful Thursday and come back and join us right here, same time tomorrow. Goodbye and God bless.